Hi everyone, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? I hope you're doing good. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy my content. If you resonate with it, connect with it. And if you get anything from my work, a connect, a dot, an epiphany, a mind-blown moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work. All the links are at the bottom of the description. And soon, I want to say within the next day or so, I will have like a website kind of thing, like working off of one of those ones that make your website for you kind of deal. Because of how it's not like I have capital for this, and I don't have a business loan or any of that fun stuff. So I'm probably just gonna have a site, like a blog kind of thing, but like showcasing my artwork so you could see it. And then I'm gonna probably do via email and private sales of my things, only because it gets expensive when the site does the selling for you. Even though you're doing all the work, they still cut a nice chunk off. So, and I'm finding this with a lot of sites. So it's not just one is worse than the other. It's just, I just want a platform to have my work be shown. I looked into this when I graduated art school. They didn't have a lot of these things that they have now. When I graduated art school, we're still using slides to yeah, and that's not that long. Well, it is. It's almost 20 years. So yeah. Things have changed, but I was looking for something very similar to that out of college, just to have a portfolio up. And other times that I've looked, things are pretty well priced for the services they're giving you. So I squared it down to two. I just have to really see which one matches my style more in presentation and composition. So, and layouts, all that fun stuff. So that should be within the next 2 days. Today I kind of took a breather. Not really. I did a hell of a lot. I cleaned. I don't neglect the house cleaning, but like I needed to do a deep cleaning, and I needed laundry, like the bed sheets and vacuuming, and Morgan is shedding all over the place, so I had to do a lot of places. So it's been a very long, arduous day. Just catching up on normal human things. It sucks, and it's beautiful to be alone. It sucks because when you really need some help, it's nothing. I'm trying to get my shed built, and I'm trying to find somebody with a truck or a van that can transport my stuff out of storage and help me bring it into the house. I can't do that by myself. I have some heavy things. A futon that's extremely heavy. I don't even need a futon at this point, but what am I going to do with it? So I'll hang out down here. Another place to sit. I have plenty of places to sit, but a twin mattress and bed spring, that's easy to carry in. But I have a vintage lamp I didn't want to get rid of. It's like one of the only pieces of furniture that I kept from my mother, that I really liked. I might reimagine it in different colors, but I really wanted to keep this. It's really heavy. It's an antique lamp. It's like one of those tall ones that has like glass on it. It's really pretty. and some outdoor stuff that doesn't fit in my car because it's too long. But some other things just heavy at this point, and I can't do that heavy lifting at the moment. I fell the other day. I did a Joe Biden. I went to get my mail and I tripped up the stairs. I'm okay. It hurts. My knees are not, I mean, I always had bad knees from dancing, but I pulled a Joe Biden. Makes me laugh, but it sucked at the time it happened. And then my back has been really out of sorts the last few days. It's the transition of seasons. This happens to me every year. I'll be all right, but just busy overall all day. Anywho, I'm ranting. Sorry. I just like to keep you guys up to date why I don't do videos or post certain, on days. It's not because yesterday was an emotionally rough, energetic day for me. A lot of things are going on in the shadows, and I don't like it. I don't like being pinned in the middle of things and adult drama crap that anywho. I'm like one of the youngest ones out of like the group of people that I speak to, and I'm like the most mature one. I don't get it. I don't get it. But that's okay. Wisdom. Bringing us into our topic today. The keys to the universe. The key of destiny. Realms of the living dead. Why are we here? The truth about evolution and the Bible. That's my one. That goes in my top 10. And the message of Aquaria. Here we are. Last time I just did one chapter because it was that good. This might also be one. That's why I didn't do a Urantia reading today. That will come tomorrow. Upstairs, I did a lot of meditating last night. It's a full moon as well. Is it today? No, tomorrow. But the energy is there, so enjoy it. But I gotta read this tonight. Mastery and the Masters of Wisdom. I know it's gonna be good. Just making this a little bigger for my eyes. Okay, are you ready? Quote, the Masters of Wisdom are great souls who through repetitive experiences and determined efforts through many earth lives have obtained mastery, firstly over the passions, appetites, and desires of the personal self, and secondly, over the forces of their bodies and over the life currents of the cosmos. Hence, they have become one with the fount of all wisdom. Jesus was a master, in fact, was and is a master of masters, end quote. Letters from the teacher, Curtis. And I agree with that quote massively. There are other Christs, others, but Yeshua Melchizedek, I got corrected upstairs. Oh, Allison, you're saying Yeshua, that's fine, but Jeshua Melchizedek, because that is the bloodline cloister group he's from genetically. So I got spanked down upstairs. And the important part of that, of me getting that slap, it's not really a slap. My guides are really amazing, but they're rough with me sometimes. And they're like, I hope, and I'm only saying this because it probably falls into what they're going to say. It's important to understand it's not necessarily important what your DNA is in this body, this avatar, this vehicle. But a lot of us do embody the cloister of Melchizedek's lines. And my spirit guides said to me, it's very important to usher the information that I am pushing at people, not like pushing, but like getting out there, because I am not of a religious background. I'm a spiritual background. I didn't have religion in my life. My parents were very cool with me after accepting, and I tried going to temple and doing the Jewish thing. Didn't fit with me, didn't mesh with me, and no religion did, actually. I went to church. All my friends are Catholic. Lived in Staten Island. Irish Catholic or Italian. I went to church all the time with my friends. My friend's family was like, hey, you want to come to church? Okay, Mom, is this okay? I don't care. Cool. Nothing stuck with me. It was all in here. And when they corrected me the other day, they said it's very important for people to start understanding that you can find Yeshua, Melchizedek, and understand the Christos without having read a book, without having to read any of the sources that it came from in the first place, because you know it from in here. And not to say that the Bible or other books would help, but it's something within innate inside of you that you have to hold on to and grasp and understand that concept. There are lots of people that have no religious paradigm that do accept, and it's not Lord and Savior. I don't accept Yeshua as that. He's not my Savior. I am my own Savior. I am of his bloodline. I'm holding his key encoding in my DNA. And so are many of you. I'm not alone. And I will never preach that I am the one and the only. But just understand that there's a lot of people who watch my videos and are very spiritually religious or very big into the Bible. And that's fine. It's beautiful. Not taking any of that from you. That's your paradigm to live, not mine. But there's going to be a lot more people like myself who embrace and understand the components of what Jeshua Melchizedek is. And again, I'm channeling, by the way. That's not Allison. It is Allison. It's one of my guides. The words mastery and the master hold each soul who is ardently striving to make definite progress upon the path of attainment such a mighty potency and power that it is important that a fuller understanding of just what is meant and implied should be given, that through ignorance none shall stumble and fall or take steps which they must later retrace in sorrow and suffering. Mastery is not a sudden obtainment, nor a gift bestowed upon certain especially favored ones. Neither are the masters of wisdom afar off, hopelessly separated from the mass of humanity, and only to be contacted after long and wearisome search, bitter struggle and failure, alone and without guidance or help. Nor are they beings who calmly watch our trials and temptations from afar, unmoved by our struggles and untouched by our cries or tears for help in our efforts to find a solution to the perplexing and trying problems of everyday life. They are our big, grown-up elder brothers and sisters, for they are many feminine souls who have reached mastery. But because of the dense and inharmonious conditions on the earth during the past ages, the great White Lodge of Masters decreed that until the Aquarian age was established, only masculine masters would be sent to work in earth conditions, for the masculine souls are positive or attractive on earth, where the sorry guys, where the feminine are negative or passive. The feminine souls are positive in the higher worlds, hence accomplish their work best from the higher realms. And this is true to an extent. Though I will say that Mary Kuan Yin, there are other female entities who have been human embodied that were masters, or just a little below the mastery rate. And the reason why they didn't maybe in word classification get that far or get that recognition is because of the Council of Nicaea and the infiltrators way before that point. Way before that point. I think the Draco and the Anunnaki are way before Babylonian and Syrian times. Way before the Magi. Way before Atlantis. So these things have been going on over and over and over again. Sorry, guys. Mastery is obtained in accordance with the law of growth, which we see manifesting in all the kingdoms below us. It is obtained as a result of overcoming every obstacle as it is presented, neither denying nor shrinking a condition, but resolutely facing it, learning its lessons and conquering it, thus leading to the unfolding and manifesting of the perfect being, the ideal pattern of which has been sent down by the higher self to be manifested in this world of matter, that the will of the Father, the attainment of perfection in manifestation, may be done on earth in a dense physical body, even as it is already done in heaven or the soul realm, from which we have descended to complete this lower and the lowest arc of our cycle of expression, we can return to our Father's home in a spiritual body. Yeah, this is probably going to end up being another one chapter episode. A lot of people have a disconnection that they're conscious here, but they are not aware that you have a higher self. And I've talked about higher self a lot in my other videos, but your higher self is a light being. is huge. And it's working with other people's higher selves, and it's working with source, and it's working with the other entities, guardians, angels, ethereal realm, celestial realm, that it works with everything. And it's the silver cord that everybody, you know, some people lost their silver string. It's not to source, it's to your higher self, which is a part of source. Again, think of yourself as the infinitude of infinity of light, and then you densify, and you take a little knock down, and you take another little knock down. It's like a funnel. You're collapsing yourself into human 6. That's why people could say you are fractalized, where we could say we are all one because of the infinitude of what your soul is. You have one little fractal piece of your soul in this avatar. I have 2 other avatars running around in the multiverse. One is in another dimension and one's upstairs. 2 separate identities, looks, living parallel kind of different lives than I am. But they're alive, and they have portions of my soul in them. And I have portions of their soul in me. We're fractalized. When I say I'm an archangel incarnate, that's a portion of my soul. That's not all of it. Other things make me up. That's just one aspect of me. There's other facets to everybody. Has this. It's not just unique to me. All of you have different facets. I had some amazing artist upstairs working through me now. They might have a little chunk of their soul in me, giving me and spinning my ideas, what I get in my head, because I used to not like flowers or earthly stuff in my, in my sculpture. And sculptures are completely, utterly different. And now I'm working with flowers. Why? I don't know, because this is another chunk of my soul who is probably separate from myself, came in and said, oh, I need to have this experience through her. Okay, cool. So that's another one part of my soul. And I'm giving you that just as an example. I'm not, I don't do math at all. Like, everything flips on me. So I don't have a mathematician at my disposal. I have an artist at my disposal. We all have this stuff, though. We have descended to complete the lowest arc of our cycle of expression, or we can return to our Father's home in a spiritual body. And yes, we can. And don't get upset if you pass away. You're going to move up in your densities in another vehicle. That's all. Energy doesn't die. It just transforms. And when people understand that, when people pass away, it's not to say not to mourn and feel bad, but with my parents, I smiled. I was happy. They weren't held and bogged down in bodies they couldn't handle. They weren't in any pain anymore. They're so happy up there. They're free floating. They're levitating. They're flying. They're having so much fun. And they get to watch me. What a show, right? It's just a transition of energy. I haven't yet lingered over a death. Even my cat, Ethan, that was, in the moment sucked. Not gonna lie. But I know he's gonna be human, and he's really funny. So these are the things that you got to take into consideration. I know like death is taken very seriously by a lot of people in different ways, and it's totally normal and human of you to mourn. But once you get that understanding that they're always going to be with you, they're a part of your soul family, they're a part of your tribe, you have a direct connection to them. We are all one. And they just needed you for an experience. Anyway, going off the topic, many have asked, who are the masters and where are they? Why do they not appear to us and speak to us and teach us here in America? Oh, shit. Others have said, we do not wish to meet a master in the flesh, for the racial appearance and habits of his personality might be a great disappointment. And if he had not mastered all the traits and conditions which we considered necessary, we might be completely disillusioned. We prefer to contemplate our ideal and commune only with the higher self, or at least with the disembodied consciousness of the physical masters. Energy doesn't have a race. Energy doesn't have a color, skin color, hair color. They can project to you, so you know, and depending on what kind of medium you are. I read energy, so I know when my parents are around, I don't see them, I feel them. But it's all energy, it's light. There is indeed a lodge of masters, organized as we have described elsewhere, with many members of its lower orders still mortals, living in their physical bodies and still subject to the laws of the physical plane, also to many of its limitations. These physical masters are of various degrees of attainment. They are of many groups and have many schools in various parts of the world, often in mountain retreats, difficult of access. They have mastered many wonderful secrets of nature and the universe, have developed great psychological and magical powers, have obtained great learning and wisdom. They could teach us many wonderful things, help us to unfold mental and psychic powers, but they could not confer upon us any power which had not already begun its development within us, nor could they develop it before we have reached a suitable stage of unfoldment. They might know of us psychically and might help and encourage us if we were sufficiently developed to commune with them. But to know them in the flesh, we would have to find out just where their monastery or retreat was located, have some kind of an introduction to them. And being still mortals and having obtained their degree of mastery through certain schools of thought, religion, and philosophy, they still retain a certain imprint of those schools and naturally think that the methods by which they reach their attainment are the best for those to pursue who seek their aid. Every class of adepts has its own bond of spiritual communion with knits them together. The only possible and effectual way of entering into such brotherhood is by bringing oneself within the influence of the spiritual light which radiates from one's own logos. I may further point out here that such communion is only possible between persons whose souls derive their life and substance from the same divine ray, and that as 7 distinct rays radiate from the central spiritual sun, all adepts and Daihan Kohans are divisible into 7 classes, each of which is guided, controlled, and overshadowed by one of the 7 forms of manifestations of divine wisdom. I agree with that. The very first medium reading I ever went to was this old lady. She had to be like 70 years old. She was the cutest thing. You wanted to take her home. She imparted some very wise wisdom to me. She goes, you're going to be like me. And you're going to work with a lot of different types of people and different types of religion. There's nothing wrong with any of them. The problem is, she's like, when you pass over, there is no religion up there. There isn't no dogma, no anything to bow down to, or to, beyond praying to the primal creator. There's no religion. There's just universal laws. The laws of the universe. And she goes, of course, in this stance, in this reality, yes, you could pray to whatever you want, but once you physically are left here, there is no religion up there. Things were divided for a reason, and it might be nefarious to some viewpoints, but things were divided into different religions, different sects, different whatever you want to classify division, for a very big purpose. Although most entities are omnipotent, they can come and go as they want. How many prayers can be answered by so many fractals of one essence? So if everybody prays to Jesus, Yeshua, Melchizedek, how much of his energy can he emit to performing miracles or answering prayers? Those prayers are for those people. And then she was explaining to me that all the other religions have their deities that people pray to. That helps divide equally. When people are putting their intention into the energy, it divides the energy equally to different sections and different entities that have different modalities and different types of aspects to them. That's what a lot of the pagan people did, was they gave, and they do it to saints. People pray to saints all the time. So the pagans used to pray to their gods. This is almost the same thing. Each god had a personality and a modality or something they had in their attributes that you wanted. So you prayed for it. There was the storm, the rain god, and this one and that one. So people would focus in their will and intention to meditate for those things to obtain. It's no different. They just criticize one and blindly tell you the other is the same, is better. It's not. When she imparted that wisdom on me, a lot changed for me that day, because then I understood that I could pray to anything, to any entity of my highest good. And I would get my answers, or I would get my prayers answered, or I would just let my energy be met by another amazing being. So I think that's just interesting to impart on you guys. A lot of people, are stuck Christians, and it's like, you don't need to be. It doesn't matter. The chosen people, as we want to call them, everybody wants to be chosen and everybody wants to feel special. But I think a lot of the problems in this world is when you are sticking a book or a paradigm in someone's face and saying, well, this is the end all be all, and if you're not reading it, and it's that mentality that we really need to get rid of. You know, I would have probably followed more of the Bible if people didn't shove it in my face as a little kid and be like, you need to read this. And did you accept Jesus into your heart? And I'm like, but I don't resonate with that name. You know, my family didn't accept me for not being blood-born Jewish. So, but even at that, you know, I said to my mother one day, I'm like, well, you got the least holiest to the high holiest. I'm like, and they're not, and the high holy people are not looking at you as being Jewish. So stop with your nonsense, unless you're going to follow every law and do all their brainwashing. They don't consider you Jewish, Ma. So I don't know what to tell you. And I'm not following this shit. Any of it. I follow my heart. Because I know I get a lot of people that write me some comments. Hi out there. Don't worry. I love you nonetheless. It's just, if you're just, you gotta, as an empath, it's easier for me to put myself in another person's shoes and feel it. But for people that are not like that, it's harder to understand when you're projecting, when you're talking, and you really want to get your point across. You got to be careful how you come across and how much you're throwing something in someone's face, because you can't force the horse to the water. You can't make it drink. You can only do so much, but it's in how you do it and how you approach it, that if things weren't just maybe more people would take the have the more open opinion and open perception to sneak in there. But even now, it's still that way. It's still that way. I had Jehovah's Witnesses come to my door the other day, and that was great because I knew what book to whip out. A Waspe. And I never heard of that book before. Oh, yeah, you got to read it. Jehovah's all over it. What? What? And then they said to me, because they said, oh, I don't call Jesus Jesus, because J wasn't the letter, and I call him Yeshua Melchizedek. And they're like, oh, that's the Hebrew version. Ooh. Now I gotta call my girl Emerald in New York. She might have an answer for me for what the hell was that. Why did they not for the actual name? I mean, I'm not calling him by his soul name, but interesting. Back to the book. Sorry, guys. I'm a lot going on with upstairs. There are therefore far higher orders of masters than those mortals now on earth who have entered the lower degrees. Wonderful as their attainments may be, they are masters so high, so pure, so spiritual, and so divine that they no longer dwell on earth. And it is their masters of the invisible lodge, not in the astral, but in the higher spiritual realms, who have put forth the order of Christian mystics, and from whom its teachings come. This order is put forward from an entirely new standpoint. Its students are not asked to go to some far-off distance land or to seek entrance to some ancient monastery where they may be told that to do without all comforts, conveniences, and sanitary arrangements, and to live on a coarse and frugal fare will free their minds from attachment to physical things. For the Western type of mind to try to adapt itself to such a radical change of habits and environment, instead of bringing quiet, ease, and freedom of mind, It would require years of training of body and mind to accustom itself and become indifferent to the discomforts and rigid discipline of such a life. If the mind of the average American aspirant is to be trained for spiritual things, to become quiet, free from disturbances, and able to develop its higher faculties and commune with the highest, this can be more quickly and successfully accomplished if he is given a quiet, comfortable, and orderly home life in which the comforts to which he has been accustomed are neither luxuries nor temptations. They are taken as a matter of course and are not given a second thought, whereas their absence would cause great diversion of mind. In such a home life, he would be subject not to its dictates of abbot, priest, or master, nor to the rigid disciplinary of a monastery, but to the discipline of living the life of aspiration and devotion in the midst of the world's affairs, being in the world, but not of it, and subject only to the dictates of his own higher self. The two systems of development differ because of difference in racial thought and habits of life. In the East, from childhood, students have been accustomed to give obedience to someone in authority over them. But in America, the whole attitude of mind is one of freedom and independence. Therefore, the masters back of this order set before its students not rigid outer observances, discipline, and physical requirements, but give them an understanding of the basic principles and laws of manifested life, and let each student discipline himself as may be necessary to live in accord with those principles and laws under the guidance of his higher self, each one progressing according to the effort he makes towards self-mastery. The principle of mastery or overcoming is an inevitable in its working and result as a law of growth. Following the law of growth, which is the assimilation of the food or experience in the conditions surrounding it, the seed overcomes and masters every obstacle in its path until it at last unfolds into the perfect flower whose idea pattern was implanted in the seed. Man's physical body, under the guidance of his animal soul, also demonstrates to a wonderful degree this same law of mastery. For in spite of the many handicaps of environment, social and climate conditions, which modify the growth and expression, his body will approximate the fullness of its ideal physical pattern. It will keep on growing until it reaches a certain size, height, and weight. That is, until it has filled out its astral pattern. For no man, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit to his nature. Because man is endowed with free will in his mental, moral, and spiritual growth, he can refuse to make the effort necessary to overcome obstacles in his environment. Hence, can retard for a long time the ultimate attainment of mastery. But someday he be the time ages long, and after many, many incarnations are here and now, each of us must definitely determine to become the master of his destiny, even though that determination is a result of suffering brought about by our refusal to recognize the goal in any other way. I dropped my remote for my heater. Sorry about that. I have a problem with that. The illusion might be of suffering. And we all suffer differently. We all perceive suffering differently. I could say that my experience last year, even though I wrote it into my contract with Source, I was suffering. I was emaciated. I was, take assumption of a woman at my height. I'm like 5'5", 5'4", 5'5". I'm like right on the cusp. And I was a little under 100 pounds. Now I'm back to my healthy. You got some hormone issues going on I'm trying to fix. But I mean, for my age and what I am, I'm happy. I'm happy. I have weight on me. I feel better. I might not look the best in my clothing from my perspective, but I'm happy. But I went through something that I wrote in for myself. All the periods of my life that I was suicidal, that I was about to take my life multiple times, not just once, that's suffering. But it's in my construct. It's in my thinking it's suffering. Again, human suffering, I hate when people do this, and I'm mentioning it only because, well, someone has it worse than you, and someone has it better than me. Stop invalidating other people's feelings, number one. But two, you can't classify what real suffering is. We've all been there in multiple lifetimes with suffering to degrees. But we don't have to go through anything. Suffering is a choice that you make consciously. It's a thought. Transmute it. Your situation might suck. I know people that were living on the street. I know people that had debilitating cancer, lost limbs, lost a lot, right? My best friend had brain cancer, and they did so much surgery. His head was collapsed in so many different parts. He looked unrecognizable at some points. Like, we could consider that suffering. But at the end of the day, he knew his fate, and he tried to live the best what he could do in the little short amount of time that he lived. My other friend also lost his leg, just tried to be as happy and as complacent, knowing what he was going through was killing him. I saw it firsthand. My best friend said to me, I feel more sorry for you because my life is short. You're going to have to live the rest of your life in pain. But he's like, it's your choice how you react to it and how you live and go through it. Don't take it out on anybody else, because no one brought your situation on you, and it's not your fault that your body is failing. Certain diseases, certain things happen, and you could be the healthiest person and have a heart attack. You could be the healthiest person and never have touched a substance in your life and could come down with some crazy disease, right? We wrote this stuff in for ourselves. So again, I know plenty of people that eat organically in the cleanest, go to the gym and do all this stuff, and like horrible things health-wise happens to them. And I know people who used to smoke for 50 years die of old age. Again, it's a state of mind. Don't dwell in it. Because man is endowed with free will. In his mental, moral, and spiritual growth, he can refuse to make the effort necessary to overcome obstacles in his environment. Hence, can retard for a long time the ultimate attainment of mastery. But someday, be the time ages ago, long ago, and after many, many incarnations are here now, each of us must definitely determine to become the master of his destiny. So I repeated that because I wanted to get that. All the years and perhaps incarnations that we have been playing with life and neglecting our opportunities, those great souls whom we call the masters of wisdom and compassion have been watching over us and have been aware of our truancy. And even when in our ignorance or perversity, we have turned from them, scorned all inner help, and even denied their existence, they have exerted an influence on our lives, but they cannot compel us to follow their guidance. Neither can they interfere with our reaping the results of the causes we set up, for they too must work with the law. The ancient axiom, when the pupil is ready, the teacher appears, does not mean that the moment we feel a desire to advance, partly to satisfy curiosity or self-satisfaction, and partly for genuine growth and desire for service, a mysterious vision or manifestation of one of the great ones will be vouchsafed to us, or that some astral guide will appear and tell us to do this or that thing, and henceforth lead us like puppets along a smooth path upon the mount of attainment. Nevertheless, the axiom is absolutely true, for the master who can best help us, because we belong to his ray and naturally respond to his currents of thought and spiritual force, will send us some form of help. Here it may be noted that many students, especially those who have recently come out of orthodox conceptions, the idea that there can be any master saves Jesus. As we have explained elsewhere, Jesus is a master of masters, the first fruits of them that slept, or those who have not yet awakened to the mystic inner life of Christ within and begin to strive for its attainment. The Christ life, which animates and is the life of all creation, fills and finds complete manifestation through him. But there are masters of lesser degree on every step of the path, just as there is no break in evolution between the lower kingdoms. Man, who is created to be the Lord of creation, embodies all the lower kingdoms within his body, so that we might say that the mineral, the vegetable, and the animal essence has become one with man. And because they are incorporated in him, he has the power to master them. And as each kingdom has its ruler or master, when man has obtained mastery over himself, he may be called a master of masters of the lower kingdoms. For each portion of any of the lower kingdoms that a man masters within himself gives him thenceforth power over all portion of the kingdom, and it will obey him. For instance, if one has a wolfish trait within him, when he masters it, he will find that he have gained a power over all wolves. No matter how much of the Christ power we are able to express, if there is any animal trait still unconquered within us, this condition will be sensed by animals of the kingdom to which it belongs, and they will not obey us. Thus, it is that the physically embodied masters can dwell in forest or jungle and be on friendly terms with the fiercest and wild animals, even poisonous serpents, for such masters have conquered the forces of those kingdoms and are recognized as lords of those kingdoms. And something that I said in another episode a very long time ago, and I forgot which book it was, but we are the macro, the micro. Okay, so what about the micro? We have mites, bacteria, and a whole nother world of invisible things that you can't see with your naked eye unless you close your eyes and you can see those little parasitical things going on in your eyesight. We have a whole biodome within us that is so small and microscopic. There's a whole nother universe that's inside of us. So we look at the mineral, the vegetable, and the animal essence, but what about the microscopic essence that if we didn't have, we wouldn't be here either? We need the bacteria, we need the fungus, we need all those things. They might not be the best things for us, but they're a part of us. And if we didn't have certain things crawling all over you and grossness, not the prettiest things to see on a slide, but if they didn't exist, we wouldn't be here. So just that's another thing to like dive deeper into. We have a whole universe within ourselves. So we are the macro, micro, macro cosm, if you want to put it that way. Just so Jesus, having become one with the Divine Father and been incorporated into him, stands at the apex of the Christ manifestations, hence can rule or master the expressions of the Christ in all forms below him. And just as there are grades in man's mastery over the lower kingdoms, some who have mastered the earth and can make it produce abundantly, some who have mastered the air and can use and navigate it, some who have mastered the water and turned it into man's use, some who have manifested fire in its subtler forms and expressions, such as electricity. So there must be many degrees of expression of Christ, each master who obtains to the mastery of any one manifestation, turning it to the use and upliftment of all, and especially to those who need that particular phase of help. The help which a master gives, however, may seem to be quite a natural and commonplace happening, far from the phenomenal or miraculous. For instance, perhaps we meet some person whose words will be used as the channel to give us just the mental and spiritual idea which at the time is needed to take us the next step onward. Or we may hear a lecture in which the word spoken touches and awakens within us the mystic chord, whose vibrations open to us that inner chamber of the heart, where we can find that which we were seeking. Or perhaps we may find our help in a book which has been called to our attention, and there find our answer. Or we may be drawn into some society, order, or other expression of thought, which is helpful and enlightening for this stage of our growth. Whatever way it comes, if we but follow the leading and recognize it in the working of the law of growth, we will have taken at least one step toward the final attainment of mastery. And many of us are doing that now. Many of us are at advanced stages of our mastery in different areas and lower in some. The plethora is so vast of the things that you can inspire others to do. It's one of the reasons why this channel was created. I hope that when I speak, that when I'm reading a book, the very things that spark me and give me life and get me excited and get me going are some of the same things that might get you going. And again, we all perceive the world differently. We're all in different paths and different points of our journey, but we're here in the now. Let's embrace it and think about the things that you have done, that you have said, that really changed the course of someone's life. It could be one person, it could be 25, it can be 1,000,000, doesn't matter. You are raising your frequency. You are being called to something. You're drawn to something innately. Don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. There's a reason for everything. And there's a reason why all these books have come into my presence. All the books behind me that I have read, there's reasons I was drawn to them. A lot of things in my life are things that, you know, I'm not, it looks like I'm a materialist, but I'm really not attached to anything. Everything that I have is something that speaks to me and that I need to help me. Whether it's to cheer me up or it's to get an idea, the words in a book, some profound piece of artwork that just speaks to you, right? Well, someone made that, someone wrote that. We're all on our mastery path. Doesn't matter where your growth level is, we're here. And we need to be consciously aware that we're obtaining this mastery. And each and every day we have a chance to fine-tune ourselves. And you are going to outgrow things. I already am slowly outgrowing the very thing that sparks me alive, and finding the community that I have and the people that I'm finding along the way. I'm seeing a lot of the undertow of the ugly that goes on behind the scenes. I'm seeing people stuck where I just want to shake them awake, and I know that that's not going to help, and that's not going to do anything besides disturb the peace. So I'm going within and making sure that each day, if something triggers me, that I walk away. And not necessarily ignore it, but just say, you know, I respect that that's the path that they're on. This is the way of their thinking, and I can only do so much to put my positive piece to the puzzle together and put it out there for people. And I hope that some of you take that kind of advice as well. You're not going to be able to change everybody. You're not going to have so many people like you either. But we're on our own paths to mastery, no matter what age we're at. It's a beautiful process. Frustrating at times, but necessary. Mastery means, firstly, mastering the little things in our daily lives, our wrong ways of thinking, our wrong ways of speaking, acting, and living. We are thus led to master our little inharmonious, our little tempers, jealousy, pretense, and foolish chatter. And everything we master carries us one step onward until we find ourselves standing close to the masters, because we are obtaining to their stature and doing their work. The master of a trade or a craft, while he may be cognizant of and supervise the first awkward efforts of an apprentice, does not work besides him. But when the apprentice has mastered the main features of his trade and is ready for the intricacies, which only the master of the craft can teach him, he will then come under the master's personal supervision. So it is with our spiritual apprenticeship. For the law of mastery is the same above as it is below. The great souls whom we call the Master of Wisdom have reached their highest state of spiritual development by taking one step at a time, mastering one thing after the other. But remember that we have the same power of mastery latent within us, awaiting development and use, namely the power of the Christ. And we have the same forces to work with and also to contend against. But it is easier for us in these days to read the path of mastery than it was for them. Firstly, because they have gone on ahead. Everyone traveling this path has helped to make it just that much easier for those who come after. Just as every auto which passes over a rough road wears it down and helps to make it smoother and easier. Those who have obtained mastery have left a trail of glory behind, which those who follow can see as plainly as the children of Israel could see the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. Secondly, in these days, there are many more phases of spiritual teachings given out by those whom the masters inspire to become their servants and helpers and the guides and leaders of their fellow man. And the ratio of such help is increasing continually. For example, every student who grasps these teachings and incorporates them in his life becomes a helper to others ignorant or less familiar with them than himself. Every such a one is thus utilized by the masters to spread their teachings. While the many differing phases of teaching may seem confusing to the beginner, yet the diversity helps greatly to develop his intuition, teaches him to think, to weigh, to ponder, and to discriminate, and to follow his guidance from within. Moreover, it must be remembered that each one who is sincerely giving out teachings to help mankind is expressing them according to his type of mind and stage of spiritual unfoldment. And since all men belong to the 7 basic types symbolized by the 7 churches, which are in Asia, each expression of truth will help the many who belong to the same type or who are approaching a similar stage of unfoldment. Many of us are here in this the entirety of this paragraph. This is unfolding in so many layers in so many different ways, but this is unfolding now. And I hope that many of you who are watching this realize this. You're a part of this. Those who are very well versed and studied in, let's say, the political aspect. There are so many people asleep, still nodding off to the wrongs that they have no idea are even going on. But there are so many more people now researched, well-read, have a good understanding, and are not judging the people who are sleeping, who might be mind controlled, who might be just in the thick of life and not worrying or caring about what's going on around them because they have to worry about what's in front of them and themselves. This was spoken about in the Truther movement. The problem that we are facing with that movement is too many people are placing fingers and blaming, judging, and throwing others under the bus. Let other people dig their own grave. FYI. You're always going to have infiltration. You're always going to have an opposition. You're always going to have people who play a really sweet, amazing, adorable role, and then they come out and there's some evil scum. Again, we got to clear pointing fingers. And I know it's really, really easy to just say that group, they're the cause. Well, if it wasn't for that group or those certain types of people, we wouldn't be awake. They chose that experience in their soul path with God. They chose that path. They chose that religion. They chose that whatever. that country, they chose those experiences because that's what their soul needed. We have to come in with compassion and grace and understanding that that's a choice they made with source. And if it is of a negative, polarized doings, beings, whatever have you, we have to respect that and give it compassion and grace. We don't have to tolerate their shit. Tough love is tough love. We don't have to acknowledge it either. But what we do have to acknowledge is that if they didn't have their contract, and if they didn't do things that no other normal human would want to do, I would hope, we wouldn't be awake. God's dualistic. Source, prime creator, infinite intelligence, the creative force. It's dualistic. You have to have both. You have to learn from both. That's why this is the hardest school. Earth school is the hardest school to go through, because it's teaching and learning on multiple facets and scales, multiple things. And yes, we chose to come in to understand that it was stacked against us. It's the will of God within you, the Christ within you, to overcome those hurdles and obstacles and adversity, to master the most difficult of lessons and challenges. And we have to come together without hate in our hearts, without pointing fingers. Yes, we need to know the people, the groups behind these evil acts and these things that are heinous. We all need to understand why, who, but we need to transcend placing blame, because that's not going to get us anywhere. You could blame somebody. You're a bad person. Great. Congratulations. What are you going to do about it? What are you doing to fix the problem? How are you offering help to those people? And lately, the funny little fish, what would Jesus do, has been popping up in my brain. People ask me all the time, like, what should I do? I'm like, what would Jesus do? And I think it's like something we need to start asking ourselves now. I mean, I would call it Yeshua Melchizedek, because that's what I got yelled at for saying Jesus. But I mean, whatever it is that you pray to, that you know, it could be Allah, it could be Odin, it could be Buddha, it could be whatever, whomever. Like, what would they do? What would these masters do? You walk in and you see and you're feeling and stuff is happening around you. Okay, so what would that master do? Start at and that again, here's how you do the work. Asking yourself, like, what would the master within do? You might not get your answer right then and there in the thick of something, but if you sat back to meditate and ask yourself, like, how would I handle a situation if presented at me? How would I judge? Would I judge another person knowing that they're of divine source and that's the experience that they signed up to do, and that's a contract, that's what they signed up to do? And that's why when I post on Telegram the Lucifer channelings, people freak the hell out. And it's like, stop. Again, he's telling you he's playing a role that God asked him to play. Like, God's like, hey, you're the son. I need you to do this. Like, because here's the free will thing. And you have to kind of be the part of the aspect that's of the negative or the shadow. Like, could you play that role for us? I know you're strong enough and you're the light bearer. You could do it. I have faith in you. And that's what he's telling you in those channelings. Just like every murderer, we were once a murderer. We were once the victim. We were rich. We were poor. We were black. We were white. We were all kinds of everything. You're playing a role on divine stage. Learning, teaching, guiding, but also being the student and getting the higher learning, soul growth that we need to move forward together. Individuals can ascend quick. Yeshua Melchizedek did. His mission was done. It was infiltrated. They took him out. And not the way you think. He ascended. And not by the cross. I mean, and again, this is my perception, not yours, and that's okay. You don't have to agree with me. But regardless, the man ascended. That's what the game is for us to graduate this time and not to have to come back and repeat. And those people who signed up to have the repeat, you're no better or no less. You're just where you need to be. So don't worry. You're going to see a lot of what most of us are going to see. And then when your avatar dies, you're going to come back and redo their cycle. And you're going to know none the difference. But that time again, where consciousness expands, you're going to remember the now that you lived so that you can move forward. And you can graduate. A lot of us did not graduate in Atlantis. That's why we're back again. Do the math on the cycles. But a lot of people are having issues with that paragraph. We're all continuing to grow our consciousness, to grow and expand our thinking. But there's so many people in judgment of others, in groups of people, political movements. We have to go above and past that at this point. It's not serving us anything to call someone that one, or it doesn't serve us any longer. What is it doing? It's releasing the anger within. It's venting your own demon that's in there. We need to move past and transcend the mundane. Again, it's all about division. So we're dividing ourselves, like if you want to say the good, we're dividing ourselves amongst the bad, but amongst the bad might be some good people that are still asleep that could use your help. And even if they're not that asleep, and something you might do might impart some kind of wisdom on them. And you're going to give that opportunity up to be the master because of their differences from you. It's just a thought. Since the masters have reached the heights of their obtainment by facing and conquering the little things of life as they came, we must not imagine that to reach perfection, we are to discard or neglect our daily duties, disturb our family life, upset our home, and make others uncomfortable, thus creating a gulf between us and our friends and family, often embittering them and turning them against all higher and advanced teachings. Neither are we to make ourselves peculiar or become recluses and refuse to play our part in our environment. Such ideas are the remnants of the misconceptions of wrong teachings of the Dark Ages, both in Europe and the Far East. Oh my goodness. well, Allison, I'm the only one awake in my family, and it's so hard for me. I'm trying so hard to wake them up, and they just look at me like I have 7 heads. Well, no, I won't let anybody around my kid. Nope. They're not, nope. Homeschool. Nope. I'm not knocking homeschool, but not every parent is made to teach. Not all kids respond to their parents. And I'm going to tell you right now, as good of a child as I was, nice person, I could not tolerate my father teaching me. He tried, he was a math teacher, couldn't do it. My mother had better success, but she didn't understand. I hear it all day long. All day. But my husband, but my boyfriend, but my kids, they're not awake. I try. It's fine. But at what point are you still being their mother? Are you still being their father? Are you still doing the matrixy things that you should be doing? Because that is a part of the role that you signed up to do. Are you making sure that their needs are met just as much as some of your needs? Sometimes you have to compromise. It's not easy to have to hold in the truth that you know. It's not easy, but their truth is different from yours, and it's still theirs to own, even if you think it's wrong. That's their paradigm that they're thinking in. When we can graciously come together and say, okay, we're going to agree to disagree. We're going to lay this to rest so we can move on with our family. Like, you don't like certain things, I don't like certain things, but we don't have to go there when we're having family time or eating dinner. This is happening for years now. I've been seeing this. You still have to play in society. That's what human creatures do. That's what it is to be human. That is unique to us. We're social. And I know for my own self, it's hard for me to go out and do human things because I live in both worlds. I live in 2 different paradigms at the same time. But when I go to work, and that's why I'm wanting to get a matrix job and to hold frequency for children in schools, because again, not every family has it perfect. Not every family has the income or disposable income to send their kids or stay home to take care of their kids. Not all jobs are remote. Not all situations are perfect. And we will try to change the system, but not everybody has a blessed set of parents that have the knowledge and know-how to teach. Teaching is a skill that not everybody has. Not all child's home situations are safe. So as much as we want to tell everybody to homeschool their kids, do you understand the capacity of what that means? And each child's parents' dynamic is different. Sometimes going out and being forced into society helps children grow. Going into a social environment and having other people teach. And yes, you want to make sure that they're being taught by people who know what they're doing, but are unbiasedly looking at your kids, treating them like they're going to treat every other kid. There's no specialty and no special favor for any kid. They're all equally treated. The system needs to change drastically. but we need to reimagine it and reinvent it. So when we are moving forward, the thing to be remembered is that mastery is to be obtained right in the environment where the great law has placed us. For until we can master those conditions or the great law takes us elsewhere or removes them from us, we are not ready for others. We may turn away, seek some other life, and endeavor to escape them, but only to find the same problem confronting us in another form. But we should also remember that each thing we master, we are through with, and hence are free to go on to other lessons. And if the old problems do appear under different aspects to test us, we have gained the power to recognize and master them. Although we must face and conquer conditions for ourselves, since no one can do this for us, still we are never left to struggle on alone, are never without help and helpers, for the force of those who have mastered similar conditions forms a reservoir of power upon which we can draw to conquer these particular conditions, if we will but correlate with it. Even though many of the modern problems are peculiar to this age, but to correlate with and utilize this force, we must keep our consciousness open to its continually. This is one reason for the injunction to pray without ceasing. Praying not for material things, but for self-knowledge, for love, courage, persistence, and determination to conquer. Even such a prayer will be answered, for the masters can pour into our hearts the divine love, which alone can fill us with the ardor of achievement and ability to bring it forth in our lives as the fruits of love. The masters cannot and will not give us money or power or glory. But if through love we follow close in their footsteps, we will gain the power to create and obtain all things as they are needed to accomplish the manifestation of the ideals we are following. But we never can do or obtain the big things until we have grown big enough to know how to use them for the best. And whether we will use them, thus is the great test that will bring to us. While we are children, we must learn to master the lessons of children, for they are fundamental and must be learned, we are ready to be able to take the more advanced steps. Some of these earlier steps are so simple and commonplace that they are often overlooked and are not recognized as having an important place in the life of the occultist. The real path of attainment is so different from that which our enthusiasm often pictures it. In the round of plain daily living, the great ideals which arouse our enthusiasm often seem to evaporate, and we find only the tasks of daily life, and all seem stale, commonplace, and profitless. One of the first of the early steps to be gained is the simple quality of courage. Not only the dumb courage to suffer, endure, and plod on, but the courage of the Christ man as illustrated in the life of Jesus. Not only the physical courage required to ride in triumph into the city where he knew his enemies awaited him, the courage to cleanse the temple of the money changers, not merely the courage to enter the garden and face his accusers, his trial and the cross, but the courage required for the great spiritual being to leave the higher realms and manifest in the dense limitations of a human body of flesh, and live in a commonplace environment among people from whom he could not accept comprehension, to say nothing of sympathy, appreciation, and understanding, where he would have to endure their indifference and their rebukes for talking with the elders in the temple, eating with publicans and sinners. The courage to be thought simple because he was not making great claims for himself. This is the courage of living and working and radiating joy and peace and love of the inner life, even though misunderstood and unappreciated, the courage to be about his Father's business in spite of all the doubts which his nearest and dearest heaped upon him. In the daily life, this often becomes the courage not to do, but to keep silent, to refuse to answer back or quarrel, to trust to the divine law, to straighten out all misunderstandings, smooth out all inharmonies, and solve all problems, provided we listen and follow the inner urge of the divine ideal that is seeking to manifest through us. Picture the Christ man during his early unfoldment as being unable as yet to manifest the divine ideal. Then say to yourself, that is my position. The Christ in me is hampered in its expression by a body that is still imperfect. Through a personality that has faults and failings, habits of thought and expression that needs to be corrected, uplifted, and transmuted. But the Christ within gives me the power to pick up all these burdens and push steadily and calmly on and let the Christ light shine out through me in spite of it all. It gives me the courage to endure the spite of the spiritual growing pains, to say I'll trust and manifest and overcome, to stand alone with my Christ and watch the law work out my problems. Another seemingly simple quality which the occult student should develop is attention. The attention which reports to his consciousness, not merely each outer happening, but reveals its inner significance. Not the cold outer attention of the scientist who seeks to understand a flower or bug by dissecting its outer form, but the attention that gathers the meaning and life message of the flower or insect that responds to its consciousness and thus is able to correlate with, understanding, and interpret nature. This is the kind of attention that gets behind and beyond the outer and into the heart of things. We should study our loved ones, friends, and all humanity with the kind of attention and our knowledge of the hearts and motives of mankind will grow, for we see in things and people those qualities to which we affinize, even their beautiful or the sordid. Therefore, we shall learn to send our consciousness through the outer into the heart of things and find out our points of contact and oneness with all. Then we will be quick to recognize the true and the true from the false, the inner from the outer, and help it into expression. Ability to see the inner heart of things leads to the development of another important quality, which should be cultivated, that of simplicity and truth in all things. The pretense, sham, hypocrisy, the boasting, exaggeration, and great claims of those in the world around us are easily seen to be untrue, a false expression of the real self, a vanity of personality. Seeing this, we should strive to make our whole lives manifest exactly what we are, without striving to shine except as our innate qualities silently shine forth. If conditions are not what we desire, we will not pretend that they are ideal and that we are perfectly satisfied with them. For if we do so, the great law will take us at our word and allow us to remain in them. For since we claim they are satisfactory, there is no need for better. Let us be true with ourselves and about ourselves, striving ever to higher ideals and better conditions through gaining the best out of those we have and thus outgrowing them. Among the ancient Egyptians, simplicity and truth were the marks of breeding and refinement, just as they are in the world today. With them, nothing was so despised as pretense, the jackdaw masquerading in peacock's feathers and thinking that it deceived the world. The great simplicity of their temple service, the indifference in rank among the priesthood and temple attendants, were largely indicated by the texture of their robes. The robes of the more humble servitors were of coarse weave, while the difference in rank among the priesthood could be told only by counting the number of threads to the inch, each one depending the quality of his garment to proclaim his position, for no boasting or claims could conceal it. Just so must the soul wear coarse garments of flesh until it has learned the lessons from them and has been able to manifest the joy and beauty of the inner life in spite of them. For it is by manifesting the joy and beauty that the garments' bodies are purified and made finer of texture. In their carvings, hieroglyphics, and paintings, Egyptians are represented with bare feet. This is not because they never wore any coverings or protection for their feet, but to symbolize that to advance spiritually, the understanding feet must uncover and unhampered by outer and limiting forms. Their feet are represented as flat and placed in a straight line, one exactly in front of the other, in a posture no one would or could readily use in walking. This was to indicate that if we are to tread the path of mastery, we must be straightforward and true, progressing in a straight line, one step after the other. Each step take firmly and flat-footedly, so that our position cannot be shaken. That straight lines and angular figures used in portraying the human form were used not because the Egyptians did not appreciate the curves of the body or because their sense of beauty was poorly developed, for their portrait statues show a highly developed sense of art, but the straight lines were used so that no suggestions of sex appeal could detract from the symbology of this drawing. Above are only a few of many simple examples that must be taken, but they are enough to show that it is not by great deeds, by obtainment of psychic powers, or by passing frightful tests in the astral that mastery is won, but following the law of growth, conquering each event and extracting out of it its spiritual force and building it into spiritual growth, just as the plant extracts the particles of food from all the sources of its environment and builds them into sprout, twig, leaf, bud, and finally into the full-blown flower. We will find the path of mastery fully outlined in the symbolic story of the life of Jesus. Therefore, those who take up the cross of the Christ and follow understandingly in his footsteps are treading the path to mastery. And that ends this section. We're going to next time do Mother Earth, her sexy self. There's a lot to absorb in this part. Huge, huge, huge. But that's what it is to be human, and to be here is to have these experiences we wrote in for ourselves, to have soul growth, which is the law of growth, and soul growth is self-mastery. That's why doing the work within and healing the wounds and being able to move on from those things and transcend them, learning from them, and then imparting that wisdom on other people and helping them is where we need to be. In my opinion, it's what I've been doing. I've been through a lot, and most spiritually advanced consciousness have gone through a lot, because if we didn't go through it, we wouldn't be able to help others. Talk about a lot of this in my spiritual soul growth episodes. One is coming soon. I'm waiting for this full moon tomorrow and the energy to kind of calm down. Sending each and every one of you love, light, shielding, and protection. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you to everybody who is supporting me. Give me a few days, and that site, I'm going to choose one. And I'm not going to do any meeny, money, mo. I'm going to meditate on it and see which feels better energetically for me. And it's just a now thing. It could change. Again, it's just me. And I got to make things easier for me. And all the intricacies of having a shop, and you don't got a team and it's just you. Like, I'd rather just do it the way I have it now. It makes my brain hurt. with everything. I gotta polish this, and the top didn't come off. I got a lot of imperfect. This one did not dry right. It's sticky. I gotta figure out how to get it sticky. And it's dripping all over my desk. Beautiful. And I can't get this one out of the mold. It's a light bulb. Just, I can't get it demolded. And I got working parts over here. So yeah, I'm busy. I hope all of you have an amazing weekend. It's here, regardless if you work or not. Please be safe, be seen, and please take a lot of the words that were spoken. This book, especially in this last chapter, is so important. We're here in the now. This is happening to a lot of us right now. And that's what we need to focus on as a humanity. Individually, you do you, boo. But collectively, we really need to get the teaching, non-judging, transcending the evil or the negative polarity. Stop pointing fingers, because it's a multitude of things that went wrong and multiple causes of things that made things happen. It's not just one entity or one group of things. It's more diverse than you think. And those documents aren't going to tell you it all, because again, those are also infiltrated. So guys, see you in the next one. Thank you for your support, and I hope you give this a like. It's long. I'm sorry. I'm ranting too much, but very necessary. Have a nice night, guys.